it said click F9, and so I did
Click what?
F9. It's like home. Yeah.
Okay, we are up and running.
Whenever you're ready.
Ready, Shawn?
Yeah, you know the 3 questions? You want me to tell them to you?
What 3 questions?
Who do you like the most? Who do you think is most electable? And who do you think will actually be our candidate? Like, most,
Who do you like the most?
actual.
Actual.
Like, most, actual.
What's the most?
Most electable. Like, if we were to put them up against whoever they throw out there for the Democratic nominee, who do you think would do the best in a general election?
And we're down to
So
DeSantis.
do you like Chris Christie, but he's nowhere near getting, making the primaries? Do you like Nikki Haley, who's probably the most
Ramaswamy.
electable? Do you like Ron DeSantis? Do you like Trump?
DeSantis, Christie's, Ramaswamy, and Nikki Haley. I do not like her, actually. She's ugly.
Oh man,
I don't want to look at her.
I think they destroyed her last night.
Nikki Haley?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think she's good on form. I think she's good. I just don't want her as my
She
president.
is corrupt as a day is long.
No way.
Yes.
Really?
You
She looks
didn't
so
watch
sweet.
it.
No, I didn't watch it. I'm sick
Oh
of
my
it.
goodness.
Dumb.
Then I'm gonna play a clip for you because people need to hear this.
Well, she's the one that I kind of, she went down in my book even more last. Let's talk about it on the radio. Ready?
Yeah.
Will she be there next week?
What's next week?
Oh.
Not after last night's debate.
She got 8 out.
Tim Pool's going to be there.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him.
Steve Bannon into that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Junior.
It's Vivek.
Vivek. Oh, Gates is going to be there.
Ramaswamy.
Gates
Mike
is
Lindell.
kind of like a prick.
He is so slimy.
Oh, Matt Gates?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with him when we were driving around.
He thinks he's destined for greatness.
Don't pay for prostitutes with Venmo. Like, that's all you got to do, especially if they're underage.
Stupid.
Exactly.
Come on.
Even if you marry him afterwards, it's not gonna justify it.
Paper trail. Anyway.
Well, it's not prostitution if you're recording this pornography. Get it
Ah.
out of there.
There you go, free speech. We were just expressing ourselves.
You got to put the mic in your face.
That's
Okay,
a
here you go.
wonderful spin on that, Martina. I like that.
Ears.
Who's Calvin Robinson? Have you heard of him?
Calvin and Hobbes.
Like a priest. Bannon, dude, if we could get Bannon for an interview.
Who's Bannon?
Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That guy looks like a mafia dude.
He just served some time, right?
So there you go.
Yeah. I bet you Junior would be untouchable.
Should we tell the story of the press passes you got?
No, let's do it afterwards. Let's actually go there and do this. You know?
Can you turn me down a little bit, Cody? No, like the ear.
Oh yeah.
Y'all scream in my ear.
Alrighty, here we go.
I feel like every day I'm light.
Are we ready? I'm gonna go.
We're going.
We're going.
We've
Don't
been
ask me any
recording for
questions.
5 minutes.
I'm gonna grab something real quick. Just say what you gotta say. Do what you gotta do.
What do I do with my hand?
3, 2. We're doing it live! No? Didn't get you to crack? Okay. Welcome back to Life, Death, and Law. I'm attorney Adam Hansen. I'm in the studio today with the one and only, my partner in crime, Shawn Garner. He hates it when I say that about him. We've got Cody Beeson running the board, and we've got our special guest today, Martine, and he's going to be throwing in some commentary here and there. We have been busy getting geared up for the holidays in our office. We've got the tree up. Shawn, you hate the tree. You hate ornaments. You hate all things holidays, but we did it anyway. No? Nothing to say to that?
Do you get more clients because people are in for the holidays and they're dealing with their family and they realize, hey, I need to change my plan because I don't like this person anymore.
I don't think it's because of that. I think it's because, oh man, the end of the year is coming. I got to get this done. Let's get something started. But I don't know. I don't know. I think things slow down at the end of the year. Everybody's gearing up for the holiday season and New Year, and so they pretty much say, "I'll put it off until January," like most things. Last week was the last Republican primary debate. Shawn, you asked me when we came in here if I had listened to it or watched it. I did not, and I purposely did not. I knew about it. I knew I was available at that time to watch it. I don't like watching those. I feel like they're train wrecks most of the time. Instead, what I usually will do is I'll go back and I will look at the clips of the snippets that were the highlights of that particular debate. That's what I have been doing in the past. But even after last Wednesday's debate, had no motivation to do that. I just feel like, what's the point? I know who these people are. I don't really care anymore at this particular point. And like I did watch a lot of the Newsom and DeSantis debate.
Oh
That
man,
was pretty good.
yeah, if you like being lied to,
Yeah,
um,
well, Newsom brought up the point. He's like, I'm not going to be the nominee for my party. You're not going to be the nominee for yours.
which is a lie.
Well,
Lie number one, he is going to be the nominee.
true, but DeSantis is probably not.
Yeah, DeSantis is probably not, but the point that he was trying to make is neither of us are here trying to actually make a presidential run. When number one, Ron DeSantis is actually putting himself out there for that, and number two, Newsom is not putting himself out there for that, but in reality is running a shadow campaign. So everything that comes out of that guy's mouth is an absolute lie.
So you actually watched the debate, and I was surprised by.
I watch these things. I actually do it.
I I typically do, but I'm just disenchanted at this point. I'm
Well,
just kind of sick of it. I know what's going to go on,
yeah.
and it's uncomfortable a lot of times now because it's not really a true debate. They
The
can't keep their
first three
control.
debates were, I agree with you, train wrecks, because they allowed the candidates to talk over one another and argue, and it sounded just like, you know, fourth graders arguing over, whose ball it is. And that was really irritating because they have good points, or at least they have points that we should hear and be able to decide on what merits we like the best. But the moderators this time, it was a panel of all ladies, and they did a fantastic job of shutting up the candidates to not speak over one another, with a few exceptions. There was some sparring going back and forth between Vivek and Chris Christie, and then some sparring going back and forth between Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie. Chris Christie's really only there to stir the pot.
Yeah,
He really doesn't have
nobody really
anything.
takes him seriously. I get the feeling that nobody really takes him seriously, and he's just in the room.
Yeah, the most I think valid point that was spoken during the whole time was Vivek's comment to Chris Christie when he said, "Why don't you do us all a favor, walk yourself off the stage, go get some lunch, and sit in the stands because nobody believes that you're going to be a candidate and you're just sucking up everybody else's time."
He said that.
Yeah,
That's not that's the truth, and it's just kind of brutal to hear, I guess.
yeah. So, and Vivek, oh my goodness, he he went very hard at Nikki Haley and Chris Christie for their position in Ukraine and their willingness to put US dollars and potentially US troops and then eventually the world at war because of this Ukraine Russian conflict without a clear end in sight, without actually saying what province would they put U.S. troops in to defend? What is their primary objective over there? What is their end game? And he goes, name it. Name a province. Which ones would you send your sons and daughters over there to defend, or my sons and daughters over to defend? Name a province. You don't even know the region well enough to understand their culture, to understand what's going on, to understand whether or not it's worth defending with American lives. You just want to say, hey, Ukraine is good, Putin's bad, therefore we defend Ukraine. When there's a lot more to it, in fact, there's a lot of corruption going on in Ukraine that needs us to take a step back and look at whether or not it's worth bankrupting our country to fund this proxy war. And he goes, go ahead, name a province. And Nikki Haley, after she was goaded 2 or 3 or 4 times to do it, she named Crimea. He goes, it's not even a province. Like, just got it wrong. You had one question. You're the UN ambassador.
Yeah.
You were the UN ambassador.
Hmm.
You can't name a province of this war that you're trying to spend all the taxpayers' money on. And Chris Christie's same thing. So I think another point that he drove home really well with Nikki Haley is that she was bankrupt. I mean, she had at most $100,000 in her bank when she left as the ambassador of the UN. She'd been the governor of South Carolina, and then 2 years later, she's living in an $8 million home and making speeches that they're paying her four or $500,000 for per speech, and she's sitting on the board of Boeing. And of course, she was consulting with Boeing when she was an ambassador at the UN, and she was giving Boeing deals in her state of South Carolina while she was governor. And he goes, I don't think anybody that serves in government should be a lobbyist for at least 10 years after they leave government office. That just, it's corrupt. It's crony capitalism. It breeds um, patting on each other on the back. You serve a little bit of time in Congress, get us the inside track, grease the wheels a little bit, and then you'll be able to sit on our board and make sure that our company gets all the sweet deal or sweetheart contracts. And he pointed that out. She didn't have anything to say to the fact that she's worth millions now with really nothing to show for it, maybe barely a little bit more experience than Hunter Biden. And and she's like, no, I'm not corrupt. And he goes, well, are you accepting donations from BlackRock? Well, yes, I'll accept donations from anybody. Well, there you go. If you're going to accept donations from anybody, then essentially you're saying you'll sell your soul to the devil because people that donate money, they don't donate it without expectations. And so he was talking about, I forget the guy's name, but he's the new George Soros, the Democratic Party. And he is one of her primary donors as well. He basically um, he's pushing a lot. He got a lot of these prosecutors that are pushing the woke agenda and refusing to prosecute crimes elected, and he's one of her major funders. The CEO of BlackRock, he's one of her campaign supporters. That all of these individuals are not only on the other side of the agenda, they're on the distant left. They're on the far, far left. Even moderate Democrats see these individuals as corrupt, and you're getting support. They're your main donors. You don't think you're compromised. Anything that has financial campaign donations attributed to it in your campaign indicates that you are going to continue the status quo of a bought and paid for politician.
So before we started the show, you came up with three different questions, Sean. The first being, who do you like the most? Second, who is the most electable? And finally, who do you think is going to be the actual candidate for the Republican Party? And so let's start with question number one. Who do you like the most? We're down to four, right? We've got Ron DeSantis, we've got Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie. You already made the argument, Sean, and so did Ramaswamy last night that Chris Christie really isn't in it. And the front runner, I believe, right now is Nikki Haley. Is that right?
Yes, and what's interesting is by far and above is of course Donald Trump, right? He's beating everybody in the polls by 50 points. He's beating Ron DeSantis in Florida by 30 points. And so that's saying a lot. Now, what did we see in 2022? We saw that a lot of Democratic dollars, a lot of Democratic donors were funding Donald Trump backed candidates because they believed that if they were supported by Donald Trump, he's so divisive that it didn't matter what candidate they put up. It was a vote against Donald Trump. I mean, you look at Senator from Pennsylvania. What's his name?
Cody's going to get it for you.
Oh man, I know this guy's name. Anyway,
Um, John Fetterman.
John
Oh, yeah.
Fetterman.
Oh, yeah. Fetterman.
So
Is he?
So you look at John Fetterman. Okay, this guy can literally, if anybody were to do a poorer performance than Joe Biden, this was it. They picked the one person that would make Joe Biden look good. And John Fetterman was put up there as the Democratic candidate for Senate in Pennsylvania. I mean, that's a big deal. And Dr. Oz was well spoken, had great policies, but he was backed by Trump. And so the vote against Trump won the day. And that is what they're banking on. And I think, quite honestly, it's a good bet because if you look, despite what Trump says, if you look at the records of the Trump-backed candidates, a lot of them had really great policies. They had one Achilles heel, and that Trump was attached to their campaign. And so there were a lot of people that would not vote for them regardless of what they said. It didn't matter. One word out of their mouth during their campaign um, speeches didn't matter because they hate Trump so much. And I'm not saying anything against Trump just in and of itself. I have my own issues with Trump, but I'm saying that there's 53% of the American population that will not vote for Trump, that will not vote for a Trump supported candidate. And so that's what you got. If you're supported by Trump, then you're not going to win.
So,
That's my opinion.
so the question is, who do you like the most out of those? We're going to drop Chris Christie out of this. And we weren't talking about Trump because he wasn't on the stage last night, but he's the front runner. I mean, there's no denying that. If he were not able to be eligible, let's say, I don't know, for whatever reason, he becomes incapacitated, he
He's in
dies,
prison.
or he's locked up. He's not able to be voted for, let's
Yeah.
say. And last week, actually, that came to Arizona. I don't know if you were following that, but there's a guy who has filed, I think, in 27, it's either 25 or 27 states, these lawsuits to keep Trump off the ballot. He's actually a Republican candidate for president out of Texas. I mean, he's not even anywhere on the ballot or anything like that. He's not going to be a viable candidate, but he's been going around to I think it is 27 states. He's filed the same keep Trump off the ballot lawsuits in all these states. Arizona kicked that one out last week, and it was a Democratic appointed judge that did that here in Arizona. So he basically said, this is a frivolous lawsuit. It's not going to work, and kicked it out. So this has been happening all over. Does that mean that Trump doesn't have his legal issues that might keep him in jeopardy of not being able to be voted for? Maybe. We'll see how that plays out. So we're going to put him to the side, and we're just going to talk about the top three:
Yeah,
Nikki Haley,
I think he makes the
DeSantis,
ballot for sure.
and Ramaswamy.
I
Okay.
think Trump makes the ballot, and I just want to make one more point on that, and then I'll talk about who I like the most. But I think he definitely makes the ballot, and I think all of these cases against him are helping his popularity. Everybody sees it. He's getting free press. He doesn't have to pay for any of this. Everybody is covering all of the you know, they're covering each charge against him. And if you're a Republican, you're saying, well, okay, um, this is a
Political witch hunt.
yeah,
Right.
it's a political witch hunt.
It's political prosecution.
And that's really the threat to our democracy. And so you want to support him just because he's being prosecuted for that. You're not that concerned as to whether or not the charges are true or not. You're concerned that a political opponent is trying to be thrown in jail, which looks more like a third world country, type of election, a banana republic. And so you support him. The Democrats know this. Okay, the Democrats are brilliant campaigners. They know this. So when they're bringing more of these cases, everybody seems to say, "Oh, look, it backfired again. Trump's even more popular." They're not idiots. Of course, he's more popular. They want Trump to be the candidate because they think that he's the most beatable person. Because they can march somebody up there that it doesn't matter who it is, and 52% of the population is going to vote for that other person. So, I think that all the charges against Trump are specifically levied to make him more popular, to make sure that he is the Republican candidate and not to keep him off the ballot. These are all just smoke and mirrors, red herrings to make it look like they're trying to fight against Trump, when in reality, they're just propping him up.
You still
Um,
haven't answered my
I
question.
know, I
So we're
because
going to
I'm
do that right after
practicing for
this.
my political career myself.
We're going to come back to that right after this. This is Life, Death, and the Law.
I'm pulling a Ron DeSantis. That's the thing that bugs me about Ron DeSantis. He does not answer questions.
It's crazy. CNN just I looked it up while you guys were talking about the political debate, and CNN said that all of like DeSantis and Ramaswamy and Haley and Chris Christie were fighting to be the alternative to as Trump's the main nomination.
Yeah, I mean everybody knows it.
Whenever you're ready, Flo.
Welcome back to. Well, it looks bad now. You gotta like.
Look, did the settings change?
Looks like it. Yeah. There you go. Looks better.
Did I go a little more?
That looks good. Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm attorney Adam Hansen, and I've got attorney Shawn Garner next to me. We have been talking about politics primarily this morning, and mostly we've been discussing our views on last week's debate between the front runners of the Republican primary. And, well, we've already established that nationally, according to polls, they're not really front runners. Trump is a front runner, but keeping him out, we're going to talk about these top four and really the top three because Chris Christie's not in it. He's not going to be part of all this. However, having said that, Shawn, you posed three questions before we started this show, and you still haven't answered the first one. And that question was, who do you like the most? It doesn't matter, if they're electable. It doesn't matter if they're going to actually be the nominee for the Republican Party. Just the question is, who do you like the most?
Vivek Ramaswamy from Ohio. The guy is absolutely brilliant. He he knows the names, the dates, the locations of every issue, far and wide. I've yet to see him stumped. Not only has he not been stumped, I've been in lockstep with him as far as policy decisions. We've been talking for a year or more that the administrative state is what is actually running our government. It's not the Constitution, it's not the elected officials, it's the administrative state. And it's really obnoxious because there's no accountability for this administrative state, and it has nothing to do with democracy. And that Vivek is pointing that out all the time, that these three-letter agencies are running the country, and we need to get rid of 75% of the federal employees that run in these agencies, hand back the power to Congress, the president, and judicial branch, and let the people continue in this constitutional republic. So I really like Vivek for that. Also, he's very, very spot on in his answers to specific issues. What will you do in Ukraine? And he'll give a very delineated outline as to how he will help end that conflict in America's best interest. You ask him, what is he going to, how's he going to deal with the abortion issue? How is he going to deal with the climate cold that is spreading across the world and how that's affecting and destroying our economy? He'll give you very specific answers. Where most politicians will dodge all those questions, they'll talk around them and they'll give you, warm fuzzies as to these talking points, but they don't really address them. Even my second favorite is Ron DeSantis. Now he is a proven leader. He turned Florida dark red. And that is an impressive feat in and of itself. Florida was one of the most free and open states during the COVID pandemic, and its economy is booming. People are moving there in droves, and especially from California. And one point that he brought up that I thought was brilliant was when he was debating with Gavin Newsom. As he said, "Hey, I was talking with a guy that just moved from California, and he said that he just couldn't take the regulations anymore. That California was a beautiful state. He loved it there. The resources were amazing, but the regulations were just killing him. And so he's moved over to Florida. Oh, by the way, Gavin, that was your father-in-law."
Right.
So he's a proven leader. He can do it. He could do the job. I think if Trump wasn't going to be the candidate, he'd be the best candidate to
Who,
do.
DeSantis?
DeSantis
Okay.
would be, yes,
We're not
because
there yet. It's just who do you like the most?
sorry, okay, I like Vivek Ramaswamy.
And I'm gonna jump on that bandwagon for the reasons that you pose as well. I like Vivek the
Vivek,
best.
wrong with cake.
Ramaswamy. That's why I don't say his first name. But I do like him the best for all the reasons that you've stated. However, he's a little annoying, and unfortunately, I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be mean or anything like that. He's just kind of annoying. if this is a popularity contest, if this was high school and you're voting for the class president and Vivek
Yes, thank you.
was running, he probably wouldn't win because he's the goody two shoes. People like a bad boy, they like a little bit of a stick it to the man. And I'm not saying that he's not like that, but he doesn't. He's too perfect, too perfect in his speech, too perfect in his appearance. He's just he looks the part of a politician the way that they should look, and people I think are turned off by that. Unfortunately, I like him the most because of his intellect, and I really do believe he I've never heard him say something that I don't agree with.
See, that response to me is counterintuitive.
Sean, I'm not talking about your normal, I'm not talking about you and I going to the polls and voting. I would vote for Ramaswamy if he was on the ballot.
I'm just saying he's not a politician at all.
I know. I know.
So the fact that he looks like a politicians look good to the people, but then they go and they lie and they cheat and they steal.
Listen, the question
He
is,
looks good to the
who do
people,
you
but
like the
he hasn't
most?
lied and cheated and stolen yet.
I agree. I agree with you. I like him the best. I'm telling you, in my opinion, people don't like him because he just rubs them wrong, unfortunately. Cody, what do you think?
I mean, I thought it really the religious side of things is going to be a big separating.
Really, because he's a Hindu.
He's a
So
Hindu,
let,
yeah.
before we go there, I think what we're doing is we said who do we like the most? We've established that. The next question is who is the most electable, and that's really what we're discussing.
Okay, so who do you like the most?
So
You like Chris Christie?
no, that's shutting down the term. No, not really. Haley is corrupt. Santis, I don't like how he used the government as a weapon in Florida.
Absolutely.
Vivek, he does
Vivek.
He does sound the right talking points. He says the right things.
But
Um,
they're not. To me, sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
I don't feel like they're talking points. He truly researches issues, and he'll tell you this. He's like, I've read a book about this. I read this. What have you read? What do you know about this issue? So it's not that he's just like making talking points. He has thoroughly thought them through, and he has an answer that he feels is according to his moral compass how you should come down on a certain issue, and it's not just a talking point that the Republican Party's given him or the Democrats or the media. It is
In
he's
fact,
thought it through.
it's in contradiction to most people's talking points. It's radical.
And it shouldn't be. That is what
That's
he's
the
saying
problem.
is actually what is supposed to be is mainstream. It's just nobody's saying it. Sorry to cut you off though. Sorry.
no, so
So
that's where I'm at on. I mean, he's the clearly the best one of the group.
He's the smartest.
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
smartest in the room.
And what you're just saying is you need something, need like a guy that has attention and gets attention. That's Donald Trump.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have to pay for it. Where all these others, I mean, they are begging people to look at them, and Trump is just commanding the audience.
Well,
I
and
think you
that's
said it though.
another likability thing about Vivek, though. Look, I mean, he has endless amounts of energy. He has campaigned circles around everybody else. He's been to every state, red, blue, uh, independent, or not independent, but swing states. And he's campaigned. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see at least two interviews from him on his campaign. Two. I mean, there'll be days and weeks that go by that I don't hear from Haley or DeSantos.
DeSantis.
He changed it midway through.
I don't think so. It's like Vivek, Vivak,
No.
all Vivak.
He actually called himself DeSantos like.
I hope not. That would be not good. So, okay, get back to the question. Who is the most electable? We talked about Ramaswamy being the ones that we like the most, the one that we like the most. Trump's not in the equation. Christie's not in the equation, and we're down to three, and we're picking Ramaswamy for all the reasons we talked about. But the question now becomes, who's the most electable? And I think for the reasons you talked about, Cody, uh, and I think we said it or we established it, he's the smartest guy in the room. He comes into a room, he's the smartest guy, and just for that fact alone, people you just don't like the smartest person in the room. You're usually jealous of that person. For deep down, you're like, I hate that person. I hope bad things happen to them.
Well,
And I'm saying that out loud, but we all think it. You all think about it. And so for that reason, I don't think he's electable because people, they're going to find fault with him. He is the smartest guy in the room and he doesn't have a Christian faith, which I think is going to be
I
huge.
think that's it.
in the southern states specifically, you're cringing when I say that. Listen, on our show, we talk about reality.
So we
No.
have Martine sitting across the desk from us for the first time. He's joining us. Welcome, Martine.
Hello, Sean. Hello, hello. Oh,
So Martine, he helps us with the tech aspect of our show. So if it sounds good and it looks good when you watch it on YouTube, that's to his credit. So what do you think? Have you listened to Vivek?
no, I haven't listened to Vivek, but I was just looking on his campaign site, and so far, like even for me, who's primarily Democratic, I like what he's saying. Like he just has all of these points that he's talking about, and it's crazy because in school you're taught that there's a separation between religion and state, and so the fact that you guys have to make a point that just because he's not of the Christian faith that already knocked him down on the totem pole of being
Hmm.
elected is just it's insane because it shouldn't be about your religion and stuff. And then back to what you were saying that he's the smartest person in the room. Wouldn't you want that to be someone that
Absolutely.
because it's like why would you want someone who's the bad boy who doesn't do it? Because all I'm hearing is that he's just prepared. He's taking this seriously. He was putting in the time and effort to research to what he's going to be asked, and he you can see that he has that drive, that initiative, that want to be president or to be the presidential elect I think
Candidate.
candidate. That he just wants it. So it's just insane to me that people just don't click that. Or maybe they do and they just
What it is, what I hear you say is it's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating.
absolutely
That
because
people are turned off about how good he is.
I,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, because you're saying that he's coming prepared, he's putting in the work to campaign, and you like you said 2 interviews a day, but other people aren't doing that. He wants it. Why not just let him have it? If he's the smartest person in the room and he's coming prepared,
I'm with you. I'm
We
saying
are all with you.
he's the most credentialed as far as the effort that he's put in and an outsider. I mean, the number one credential for me at this point is someone who is not going to follow the status quo. Now, they don't have to be an outsider, but it's a big step back if they are an insider. Like, DeSantis is a governor, right? He's been in politics a majority of his professional career. Prior to politics, he was in the military, which is very admirable, but he hasn't actually created an industry. He actually hasn't created anything for um, his community or the public in general. He hasn't provided a service other than serving his country is not to be understated in the least, but he's told what to do, how to do it, and where to do it. And that is different than innovating and creating something that makes America great, and that is using our freedom of intellectual ownership of property and actual ownership of property to produce something. And government needs to understand that production comes from the citizens, not from government. And that's why I want an outsider to be a governor or
Getting back
in
to Ramaswamy and
politics.
going back to that Christian issue, what I really respect, one of the things that I really like about Ramaswamy is that even though it's not his faith, as he talks about it, he understands it. He knows Christianity, he knows the tenets of the faith, he has done his research, and so he can openly talk about it very easily and connect with people. And my fear is that I hope he didn't do that just because that was the purpose, was to connect with people and get voters along. I don't think it is. I think genuinely he is curious and he's an intellectual. He wants to know about these things. And it's super, super respectful to me. It's the same as, for example, my wife and I went to Italy a few weeks ago and on a little trip with our boys. And I'm telling you this story because when you go to a foreign country and you try to attempt to speak their language to them, they love it. They feel like, oh, you're not just any old tourist. You're trying to actually learn our culture, learn about us, you know. And I feel that's in some small respect kind of what Ramaswamy is doing with the religion aspect. He's trying to understand, or at least project that he's understanding that tenet of the Christian faith, so that he can understand where the voting base is coming from. That doesn't mean that he has to adopt all those things, but it just so happens that a lot of his moral compass is based on what would also be known as Christian principles.
Well, and
Or
Judeo-Christian principles.
yeah, absolutely.
And so here's the thing. He advocates for a culture that has a deep foundation on traditional religious tenets. And you can be uh, avid follower of deity and respect that there is a divine creator and have a lot in common with people across the aisle as far as across faiths, as opposed to being just a Catholic or a Protestant in name only and not follow your faith. I mean, look at our current president. He's a Catholic, but I don't think that he's worthy to take mass. Quite honestly, if you just looked through their guidelines and what it is determined worthiness to take mass, his political positions and what he fights for disqualifies him to even participate in one of the most holy rituals in his own religion. So, yeah, he's Catholic, and a lot of people in this country are Catholic, so maybe that fits well with them, but he doesn't follow his faith. Vivek is authentic. And I haven't heard anything that distracts from his faith. Of course, I don't know his faith, but he's never disavowed it, which I think that in and of itself is a great quality. Now, Nikki Haley, on the other hand, her real name is Nimarata Rondawa. Yeah, she is a first generation American. Her parents were born in India and she was Hindu as well. She converted to Christianity and changed her name to Nikki Haley because that fits the narrative. That to me looks much more suspicious as someone that holds authentic to their true identity than someone who is trying just to fit in the mold.
We have to take a break. This is Life, Death, and the Law. We'll be back right after this. You hate it when I say that, but too bad.
I think we'll put it. Let's take a break.
We got to go to break.
I'm so glad we got that. We definitely got that.
Donald Duck.
Whenever you're ready, though. Yeah, I had no idea about that. She changed her name.
And her religion.
How'd you
Yeah.
find that out?
Vivek told it on the debate last night.
Yeah, check it out.
Dang, I should have watched. The one I should have watched.
Well, because he keeps calling her Nimrata, and
He's holding her accountable.
and the
She hates him, man. Last one, she's like, "You are slime.
yeah,
Don't bring my daughter into this." I'm like, he made a good point,
but
though.
your daughter is an adult and using the platform that you say should be illegal.
Exactly.
That's a
That
valid
was
point.
hilarious.
So anyway,
Get your own house in order, he said.
yeah, exactly. The moderators, they were like, Vivek, you said that you're trying to be a uniter of the country, that you are the American candidate, yet you seem to be um, offending everybody on the stage. For example, you call Nikki Haley Nimrata, and he goes, "That's her name. That's her birth name. Her country of origin or of her parents is India. I'm the same way. The only difference is I accept it, I embrace it, and I put it out there. Her name, for anybody that would hear it out there, would think that she was born and raised
Yeah,
in the Midwest and brought up in
exactly. I thought she
Protestant
was.
Christian family. That's not the case.
Gross. It's just gross.
Well, wouldn't you say that she's just changing her name to make it easier for people to
Yeah,
find her?
there's all sorts of reasons
But
why,
then,
but
but then it goes against it because then you have Vive, which is not an easy name to find out. You can enunciate it, but
Ramaswamy. Nobody could pronounce that forever.
yeah.
I like Ramaswamy better than Vivek.
Yeah,
Okay,
thankfully Google types it in for me.
noise AI.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm attorney Adam Hansen. I've got attorney Shawn Garner with me. And we have been talking about last week's debate. Now you got me on that, Shawn. Vivek, debate.
Thanks. Now you're saying it right.
Yeah, well. And we were talking about the three questions that you posed originally before we started this show, one of which was, who do you like the most? We've established that I think we're all agreeing that we like Ramaswamy the best. And then the next question was, well, it doesn't matter if you like him the most, who's the most electable? And we were talking about some of the flaws with all of the candidates, really. And I don't know if we finished that conversation, but the last question is, who is the actual person that's going to be nominated?
Well, no,
Or who you think?
we didn't ask who's most electable. Who?
Oh, I guess we didn't establish who it was, but
Who do you
we were
think is
talking
most
through. We
electable?
were talking about the flaws of the others, and
So if you were
so
sitting
okay.
in,
No, let's start with you. Let's start with you.
yeah, if
Who's the most
if
electable?
I'm in a backroom strategy, you know, smoke-filled
And you're
rooms,
taking the United
the
States, all
Republican
50
bigwigs.
states as a whole, who's the most electable, thinking of all the diverse cultures we have in the United States across the board, from Alaska down to Hawaii, all the way to
As much as it pains me to say it, Nikki
Florida.
Haley.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
For the sole purpose of, well, there's two reasons. Identity politics. She's a
Oh,
woman.
she's a woman.
And she served on the UN, and a lot of people see that as a
Under the
huge,
Trump administration, so she's connected there.
as a, well, I don't think that helps her, honestly.
Okay.
But
Sorry to interrupt.
I think that that gives her a credential, as much as I personally dislike the UN, and I think that we ought to pull out of it. I think that people see that on a surface level as a credential for someone that's going to serve in this capacity. So she's a likable person in general. I know you don't like her, and neither do I, but in
I don't
general,
think she's attractive, and I think that's a big deal.
you need to edit that.
Why?
That is,
It's his opinion.
but that's part of identity politics right there. You can't go with attractiveness. That's your
We're
identity.
talking about, is she the most electable? No, she's not. She's not a pretty woman.
First of all, I disagree. I think she is pretty.
It's
Cody?
I have the beholder this
That
time.
looks my editing app.
So, and second of all, it's chauvinistic to even bring that
How
up.
dare you?
So,
I'm
anyway,
offended.
anyway, I think that people want something new, and that's human nature, right? We like the novelty. And so we want to see a female in that office. And that's identity politics, and I don't think it's right. But I think that people would like to see that, and they see that her credentials as being an ambassador of the UN, and she is in the establishment. I mean, she's being funded by all the major powers out there, and she's part of the establishment machine. So I think that she would be the most electable when it came to a general election. Um, of the four candidates out there, I like her the least. I would elect Chris Christie over Nikki Haley, but
That's not the question.
I think the general election she's the most elected.
Okay, I am going to go with DeSantis because I believe that I don't think people like Nikki Haley once they see her, once they hear her, and for the fact that for the reason that you said that she is the most electable because she's a woman, I'm going to say she's not electable because she's a woman.
Why?
I don't think I don't think most men want to be, and I know this sounds horrible. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I don't think most men want to be, what's the word?
Taking directions from a woman?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, goes back to a study that I learned about years ago. BMW did when they first started coming. This is back in the early 2000s. BMW, they were putting the voices in their cars,
Hmm.
and out of all of the voices, like men would not, they did not like taking directions from women.
Oh, that's so ironic because I guarantee I'm always going to have a woman voice talking
I
to me
like
in my
the
car.
Australian woman accent
Yeah,
voice
For Siri.
personally. Yeah.
or Indian.
How did I? And you say I'm offensive? Are you kidding me?
I like an Indian accent.
Like feather or dot?
Thank you. Come again.
No,
Oh,
I'm not answering that question.
weird.
India, Indian.
Dot. Okay. So, anyway, back to my opinion, and that's all that matters. It's going to be DeSantis. I mean, I'm going to go with DeSantis.
He's the most electable.
He's the most electable. He's got a proven track record. People just like him. You know, he fits the part. He looks the part. He is doing all the right things
Yeah.
to the people. I'm not saying he is. In my opinion, he's not doing all the right things, but to the people, he gives the perception that he is. He gets attention because of using the government in Florida to do things that I don't think the government should do, but the base as a whole feels like, yeah, you need to stick it to the man. Kick out all the people that are saying, you know, from the river to the sea and all the Palestinian loving people. Kick them out as Florida. You
Yeah.
know, go after Disney because of their
Woke agenda.
woke agenda.
Yeah.
You might think that, but don't use the government as a club to do it. That is completely wrong. Ramaswamy gets it. Nikki
Yeah.
Haley doesn't. Christie doesn't get it. They're government people. But Ramaswamy, who's not a government person, understands the Constitution,
Yeah.
understands all these things. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with DeSantis. Cody,
I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. DeSantis has the most on the ball as far as having a track record, and although all of them except for Vivek have Vivek.
It is be baked, just
Okay,
like a cake.
all
I know you like cake.
absolutely, man.
Okay.
All but Vivek have demonstrated.
Ba-dum-ba-dum.
Right,
they're
there
playing the
you go.
banjo.
All but Vivek have demonstrated that they'll use government, power in an abusive way.
Yeah,
I
and
love I love that you pointed that out.
it's true in authoritarian way.
All
All of
right.
them have.
Anything else to say on that? Martine, what do you think? I know you don't keep up a lot with this stuff, but just from what we've been talking about, what do you think?
Yeah, just from what you guys have been talking and like me doing my research, unfortunately, I have to agree with you that I
With
don't
me?
not on DeSantis, but the fact that Nikki Haley wouldn't be it because she is a woman, because it's just unfortunate. The unfortunate truth, like we kind of saw it with what was her name, Hillary. Hillary didn't get her.
If you had to vote Republican, would that be any reason not to vote for her?
I'm just gonna say I wouldn't vote her because I don't know much about her, but I just
No. But it is everybody's equal.
yeah, like 'cause-
Would you count that as even a half a point against her that she's female?
oh, absolutely not because
You wouldn't personally.
I wouldn't personally because I grew up with only women.
Would you count it as a point for her?
No, because
Okay, so
gender shouldn't be part of the equation.
it shouldn't be, but is it for you?
No,
Okay, all right,
but just
fair
basically
enough.
from all the information that I've done, I would go with B-Bake just because I like everything that he's saying. Like you're still going back to his saying.
But this brings up an interesting question because do you go to the polls, and this is just a question for all of us, do you go to the polls to cast your vote thinking, okay, I think the majority of people are going to vote for, let's say, DeSantis. Therefore, I don't want to throw my vote away, and I'd rather DeSantis get an extra vote to get over the hump to beat the Democratic nominee. Therefore, I'm going to vote for DeSantis, even though I really like Ramaswamy or I like Haley better. I'm going to vote for this guy. Is that ever something that comes over your
Yeah,
voting decision?
oh, absolutely, right. I don't want to throw my vote. And so,
That's interesting to me. I don't. I don't think of it that way.
yeah, and
I vote
if
my
if
conscience.
all of us thought that way, then we would have very different outcomes in our elections. And I think we would have an independent party that was actually a third party runner, and we wouldn't have this two-party corrupt system. But we don't. We want our vote to count, and we want it to go towards the winner. And so I think that a lot of people were going to vote for who they see in the polls is leading. And I think that's why the polls they have such a big impact. And you see this from the mainstream media pushing that out. Who they want to win, they show the polls favoring that person. Or if they want to get the vote out for the opposing party, they show the polls for somebody that the opposing party really hates. And so they use the polls as a stick to get people to vote for who they want to actually get elected. And that's why I think that the media manipulates these elections big time.
Okay, so to sum it up, Shawn, you said who is the most electable? You said Nikki Haley. I said DeSantis. Cody said DeSantis. Martine said DeSantis. So we win. We trump Shawn. No pun intended. Next question, the last question. We've only got a few minutes to duke this out. The last question is we've talked about who we like the most, who we think is the most electable. The last question is, in reality, given all this, the landscape, who's actually going to be the nominee for the Republican Party to go up against Biden or the proxy individual that they put in there as the contender?
If anybody doesn't think it's Donald Trump, then you need to go out and get your head examined because it is going to be Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
I can't believe
So
it.
you're telling me we just wasted an hour of our time talking about people that don't even matter?
No,
VP.
You guys acknowledged in the beginning.
I love that you brought that up, and that's where I'm going with this. So really, I think the actual question should be, who is going to be the actual nominee of the Republican nominee, Donald Trump?
yes,
I think we all agree he's going to be the nominee.
yeah.
He's going to be the nominee.
The big
So who
question
will
is
he pick?
who is he going to run against? And I think that the biggest chance that Joe Biden is actually going to run for a second term is when the GOP nominates Donald Trump as their candidate because they know that they can just put up a shadow figure for the Republic or the Democratic Party, and they'll beat Donald Trump because they don't need somebody to actually speak and perform. They just need everybody else to hate Donald Trump. Now, if it's not Donald Trump for some reason, if for some reason their strategy backfires in one of these prosecutorial cases, a prosecutor gets out of line and actually puts him in jail, and he's not eligible to run for president, and it's somebody like DeSantis or Haley, they're going to pull Gavin Newsom out of their back pocket. I guarantee it. That's their backup plan. Everybody says they don't have a plan B because they don't want it to be so apparent. But has there ever been a debate between a presidential candidate, a real, um, oh gosh, what's the word? Dang it, legit presidential candidate, and then somebody else that is obviously measuring the White House for its curtains and having a debate as if they are the two presidential frontrunners before. That's never happened. It's a complete waste of time unless Gavin Newsom is going to run. Everybody knows that. And so if it's not Trump, Newsom's going to come out. He speaks very elegantly. I mean, just to listen to him, if I didn't know all of the things that he was saying were flat out lies, I would be impressed. I would say this guy, has got his stuff together. But the only thing that he's got together is man, I have a hard time with my words today. The only thing that he has together is hoodwinking the people, and he's got that nailed because everybody knows that California is going down the tubes, and it's one of the greatest as far as resources states in the United States, and he has managed to just destroy it.
I think the question should be who's going to be the Republican VP. What I've seen is that Trump has really kind of gone after DeSantis. They can't work together. It's either Trump or DeSantis. They're not going to work together, which is unfortunate. That'd be a fantastic ticket, in my opinion. You've got Trump doing what he does, and then you've got a more sane, level-minded individual in DeSantis. But they've been going to war. They had to, and Trump takes digs at him. DeSantis alternatively had to reciprocate, so they're taking punches. He's also he's gone after Nikki Haley, which is surprising to me because she worked for his administration, but not so surprising after what you've said, Shawn, of these new revelations that I didn't know about. But he hasn't really gone to war with Ramaswamy. He said a few things here and there,
Hmm.
but not as much as I feel like
He doesn't see
towards
him as a threat.
no. And maybe that's what it is. But Ramaswamy on the alternative hasn't actually made too many disparaging comments about Trump either.
No,
He
in fact, he's propped him up quite a bit. He says that he's one of the better presidents that we've had this century.
absolutely. So I would love to see Trump smarten up and pick a Ramaswamy as a VP. I think that would be a fantastic ticket.
Yeah,
And am
hopefully,
I?
I don't think Ramaswamy would serve as VP, but
Yeah, he says that. He says I'm running for United States president. But let's see.
yeah.
That would be fantastic. We got to go. Our time is up. Believe it or not. We'll talk to you next week. This is Life, Death, and the Law. It's a fun one.
Yeah,
I like having Martine chime in.
I told you, Martine, you gotta listen to me sometimes.
I
I
like
do
you guys
listen to
better
you.
than Shawn. No, just kidding.
All right, so
No, we just do it all the time. It's fun to have different voices,
Yeah,
and it keeps the conversation moving better in a better direction, I feel like.
Yeah. You can go ahead.
I don't want to say it on there, but women don't like women. You know what I mean? They're not. Yeah, there's a push for having a woman in there, but women don't like women.
Hold on, let me stop the stream.